Okay. Between June 14th, 1962 and January 4th, 1964, a serial killer named the Boston Strangler killed 13 women around the Boston area. Those women were Anna E. Slessors, Nina Nichols, Helen Blake, Ida Erga, Jane Sullivan, Sophie Clark, Patricia Bassetti, Mary Brown, Beverly Simmons, Evelyn Corbin, Joan Groff, and Mary Sullivan. And it was a really big deal because, especially to women, at the beginning, the first 5 murders actually, they were all old women, and almost all the murders were similar. But this, they would be strangled with like their stockings or something, and they would tie. The person would fashion it into a bow tie, into a bow. They would position them in a sexual way, you know, like their legs would be spread open, and they would make the place look like it was robbed, you know. And in the end, nothing was taken. But it was really big in the beginning because the first 5 targets were all old, and people were like, "Oh, this guy's just after old people," you know. But once Sophie Clark happened, and she was a 21-year-old African American. So those are two different things. It was a young person and it was an African American. So then people started realizing now it could be anyone. You know, I could be next. My sister could be next. My grandmother could be next. It doesn't matter about age or race anymore. And people went nuts. They started buying dogs and batteries, and they bought guns and stuff, batteries, light bulbs. They bought everything they could get. The dog pound would be empty because so many, even small dogs, they would take small dogs too, all because they were scared, and I would too. But the police had no idea what to do. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. Most of the murders were similar, but there were a couple that were completely different. Like the Joan Groff murder. She was a singer, so her throat was really strong, so it was really hard to strangle her. She was an opera singer, so that's pretty big. So she was murdered not by strangle, but by stabbing. She was stabbed 20 times, and 18 of those stabs were on her left breast to form a bullseye dart, on her left breast, which was totally random because none of the other murders were like that. And Mary Sullivan. Mary Sullivan was a 19-year-old woman, and she was found strangled with a bow tie. She had semen dripping from her mouth. Right, she was naked. She was semen dripping from her mouth onto her left breast. She was tied against the bedpost, dead. And there was the Boston Strangler. He wedged a broomstick 3.5 inches up her vagina. And to top it all off, he left a card next to her foot saying "Happy New Year" with a smiley face. And that was probably the most grotesque one out of all of them. All the other ones were strangled. The bow tie made the house look like it was ransacked. But yeah, the police didn't know what to do. They had no leads, no witnesses. But then out of nowhere, the band comes in. He confesses, "I did it," and that man was Albert DeSalvo. Okay, so Albert DeSalvo. He was born on September 3rd, 1931. His parents were Frank and Charlotte. They had 5 children. Frank was an alcoholic, and he would abuse his wife and children. So they lived in Chelsea, which is the worst area of Boston. And Albert, at a young age, Albert and his 2 sisters were sold into slavery to a farm for $9. And months later they escaped, but he was also exposed to sex very early in his life. His father would get prostitutes and take them home and make the children watch as they had sex. And the mother and father ended up getting a divorce, and they never saw the father again. But by then, the damage is already done to Albert. He was a delinquent, I can't pronounce. He was arrested more than once on assault and battery charges. Like I said, he was exposed to sex in early life. He sold himself to homosexuals around the community, and his first sexual experience was at age 10. This fueled his sexual appetite, because he had a sexual addiction, incredibly sexual addiction. But time went on. He did more crimes. He would be good, and then all of a sudden he would do something stupid. But he wanted to try the serial killer symptoms. He would take dogs and cats and put them in orange crates and make them scratch each other to death. And he did that a lot. So that was one of the serial killer things. Red flag. When he turned 17, he enlisted in the army, and he was He was stationed in Germany. While there, he met his wife, Irmgard, and his sexual addiction really became known. She said that he would want to have sex 5 to 6 times a day, and he would masturbate almost every minute. After they would have sex, she would go in the bathroom and find towels, like 2 to 3 towels just covered in semen. What normal person does that? So he had a really big sex, and it was said. He said that he gets this burning feeling in his abdomen, and when that happens, that means he has to have sex. He has to have sex, and by any means, with a woman, masturbating, all that. So in 1954, he went back to America with Irmgard, but in 1956 he was honorably discharged from the army because it was said that he sexually molested a 9-year-old child, which probably he did. But yeah, he had a lot of issues. His sexual addiction got even worse. He did a bunch of sexual offenses. Okay. A couple of years before the whole Boston Strangling murders, Albert was involved in several sexual offenses. One of them was called the Measuring Man, where he would pose as a man named Johnson who worked for a modeling agency. He would go door to door, and if a woman answered, he would be like, "My name's Johnson. I work for a modeling agency, and I was told that you would make a good model. Do you mind if I take your measurements?" And he would ensure that it's not nude, it's in an evening gown, it's in a swimsuit, and 9 out of 10 times it would work. Girls were very interested in it, and they were very flattered, and let him come in and take the measurements. When he would then trick them into having sex with him, because he would be like, okay, if you have sex with me, I'll make sure that you're on the top of the list. And they would do it, and that was called the Measuring Man. He was found out later, and he served 18 months, and that was the Measuring Man.